From r/DatingHell. The 1-hour nightmare. A few years ago I agreed to a blind date. Numbers were exchanged, phone calls were made, and she and I planned to have dinner that Friday evening. This is a timeline of said date. 6:45 p.m. I arrive at her house to pick her up. I know this seems odd for blind date protocol, but she had requested that, rather than both of us meet at the restaurant, I pick her up, because her car is not street legal. She walks out of her house dressed fairly nice. The one thing that seemed odd was that she was wearing enough eye makeup to make the likes of RuPaul and Lady Gaga cringe. As she approached the car, I could smell the distinct aroma of vodka. When she hugged me hello I could tell that she had been pre-gaming this date big time. I opened the door for her, helped her into the car and away we went to share a magical evening together. 6:55 p.m. We arrive at the sushi bar. I had suggested another restaurant for our date, a new locally owned restaurant that had received terrific reviews and was the talk of the town, but she declined the idea based on the fact that she had never heard of the place and that, for a first date, I should take her someplace nice. The conversation in the car was standard getting to know you stuff. She complimented me on my attire. She requested that music be changed from the alt-rock station to the hip-hop station because she didn't listen to that faggot shit and she questioned whether or not I was a serial killer. Ick now. Standard stuff. 7 p.m. We are seated and given menus. She opens her menu and orders a bottle of Tokyo Rose, a combination of sake and plum wine. As the waiter is walking away, my date opens her menu and says, "Know what's weird? I really like Jap food, but I just can't stand Japs." I look up from my menu and search her face for any trace of sarcasm or irony. I also notice out of the corner of my eye that the waiter, upon hearing this, froze in place for a brief moment, shook his head, as if he imagined the whole thing, and then went about his business. She then continued on. "I also really don't like," and proceeded to list every single ethnic and racial slur that I had ever heard, and a good number that I had not. The waiter returned with our drinks shortly thereafter. 7:06 p.m. After placing our food orders, I ordered a tuna roll. She ordered a salad. Because the thought of eating raw fish make her sick, she asked me an odd question. "Are you hairy?" I cannot recall if anyone had ever asked me that before, and was unsure as to how I should answer. I'm a 37-year-old man, so I do have body hair. I'm not Chewbacca, but I don't look like a 10-year-old boy either. Apparently, this was an issue for her. Well, if we are gonna fuck tonight then we need to wax that shit off, because I don't play that way. I had already decided before the date began that there was to be no fucking, so I was not too worried about being violently shorn that evening. Quick to change the subject, I decided to ask a question that might distract her vodka and sake soaked mind. "So do you have any tattoos?" "I've got one." Her eyes lit up, and she nodded excitedly. 7:12 p.m. My delicate flower of a date throws her leg onto the table, lifts her pant leg and shows me a tattoo that wraps around her ankle. It is some generic looking tribal pattern with a few kanji characters worked into the design. She explains that the Japanese script are actually the names of her future children, Dylan and Skylar. As she rotates her ankle to show off the design, she knocks the half-empty bottle of sake onto the floor. 7:16 p.m. An amused waiter assists me with my attempt to soak up the spilled liquor from the carpet, while my date reveals her second tattoo. "My other tattoo is a tramp stamp," she says, loud enough for everyone to hear, "but I don't show that to everybody." Somehow, my brain thinks that it is a good idea to ask why not. Her response? "Because it's a big ol' heart. I got it, so that when you're fucking me in the ass, you know that I love you." The waiter and I lock eyes as I attempt to develop the power of telepathy. I imagine our mental conversation went something like this. "Me, dude, you gotta help me out here. This chick is a hot mess. Please just get us our food and bring me the check." Him, "Ha ha ha, no way man. This is fucking hilarious. I'm gonna go tell everyone in the kitchen to laugh at your sorry ass." He promptly vanished into the kitchen. 7:23 p.m. Our food arrives with the hope that my dining companion might be too preoccupied with her salad to continue to speak. My hope is quickly destroyed. She began talking about her last job and why she was fired from it. According to her, she was working as an office temp when there was some type of altercation between herself and her manager. The reason that she was let go was because he was too much of a sissy to fight like a man. I still have no idea what that meant, and I oftentimes find myself lying awake at night pondering what exactly happened. I tried to change the subject by discussing films. Did she have a favorite film? If so, what was it? As it turns out, she was a fan of the cinema. Her current favorite movie? Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers. I also enjoyed the film, but for reasons quite different from hers. Instead of citing Stone's use of blunt violence, mixed media, different film stock and the sometimes shocking juxtaposition of the horrors of American suburban life with the colorful media happy world of the 1990s, her reason was, because Mallory Knox is fucking HAWT. She then went on to quote every single line of dialogue uttered by Juliette Lewis in the film. 7:26 p.m. How sexy am I now? Fucker. She screamed as she stood in her chair, 1 foot planted centimeters away from my empty plate. In order to calm things down, I decided to switch the subject yet again. This time I decided to learn about her family. I offered that I had one younger brother and 2 adorable nieces. She said that the only family she had was her mother, with whom she lived. She went into detail about the fights she and her mother would have on a daily basis, and how her mother did not understand the stress that she dealt with in everyday life. This, she explained, was why it was vital that she be able to continue her strict regimen of Prozac and vodka. I could see the storm clouds gathering in her eyes as she went on. And my mama just don't understand how tough it is. If she would just get a better job, then maybe I wouldn't have to collect unemployment. I mean, I have to remember to turn in that paperwork once a week. The dam holding back her emotions finally burst and she began crying, turning her iMac into dark rivers of grief. 7:30 p.m. The helpful and courteous waiter appeared at the table looking resplendent in his branded apron and shit-eating grin. "Can I get you to anything else?" he offered. I leaned over and said, "Just the check please." He looked at me, looked at the sobbing train wreck in the opposite chair, turned his head, looked me in the eye and said, "Not yet," and again vanished into the kitchen. 7:35 p.m. After ruining 2 napkins, I was finally able to stop the flow of tears coming from my date. The waiter, realizing that his last stunt more than likely cost him a tip, returned with a check. I quickly gave him my card, which he ran with all haste. As I signed the tab, my date said, "So what are we doing now?" As if nothing had happened. 7:45 p.m. As I pulled my car onto her street, she said, "You're not gonna call me back." I can tell. Not wanting to hurt her feelings or risk having her go feral while still in my car, I said, "I just don't think I'm the right guy for you." I decided not to enumerate the reasons for this decision, those being that I own no clothes designed by Ed Hardy, I had no illegitimate children, I was not training to be an MMA fighter, and, despite being a huge fan of the show Breaking Bad, I had absolutely no idea how to cook meth. When we pulled into her driveway, she began crying again. "Why is the date over? It's not even 8 o'clock, and I'm not even drunk yet." I exited the vehicle and opened the passenger side door. Partly because I'm a gentleman and partly to give her the hint that it was time to get the fuck out of my car. She stood in front of me crying, her head in her hands. Not being a monster, I decided to give her a hug. As soon as I pulled her close to me, she raised her head and sunk her teeth into my neck. "You did not misread that. The crazy bitch fucking bit me." Thankfully, she did not break the skin. As soon as she released her grip, she ran full speed into her garage, screaming, "Fuck you, you fucking faggot." As I got in my car, my cell phone rang. It was my rescue call. I answered, staring off into space like Martin Sheen at the end of Apocalypse Now. "Hey man, how's your date going?" asked my friend. The only thing I could mutter was, the horror, the horror. Epilogue. My morning routine is fairly boring. Wake up, check my email, read the news, while enjoying a cup of coffee, check my phone for messages, very pedestrian stuff. Every now and then, when I pick up my phone, while pouring my coffee, I will find text messages sent between 1 o'clock to 5 a.m. from a number labeled "Do Not Answer." Sometimes they are nude pictures, sometimes they are violent threats. Each time, I slowly reach up and rub the spot on my neck, which has suddenly begun throbbing. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that bell to turn on notifications, so you'll be sure to know when the next video comes out. Want to watch some more? check out my other videos. I really do appreciate everyone who helps make these videos possible. And as always, thanks for watching.